This is the Rich Lieberman Media Pulse, and I'm sorry I'm a little late. It's a Saturday, February 21st, 2026. Um, Voice has been a little scratchy because I've been talking too much, and I just find that absolutely incredible that I can talk so much. In any event, I'm here. We may do something else. But for now, I want to talk about something which I kind of laughed about. And I'm going to give you the real motives behind this big brouhaha, which really isn't that big of a deal. Has to do with Megyn Kelly. Remember her? Used to be on Fox, opinion maker. They call her a influencer, all that stuff. And she basically ripped into Abby Phillip, who is of CNN notoriety. And she being Megyn Kelly, talked about the lack of ratings. She called Abby Phillip basically a lightweight, says nobody watches her. In fact, she made a big mistake, which I'll tell you now. You can go online here at YouTube and watch what Megyn Kelly said about Abby Phillip, which I don't necessarily disagree with. But I'm going to tell you some real motives, folks, because there are real motives here. First off, she said, she being Megyn Kelly, literally, and this is a quote, no one watches Abby Phillip. Well, that's mistaken because and that word is overblown, overused, and really definitively undefinitive. It's not correct because if literally nobody, as Megyn Kelly puts it, watches Abby Phillip, as she put it, then nobody would be watching Abby Phillip. Literally nobody. And that's what the word literally means. It means that the actual thing is the actual thing. When you say literally somebody is doing something, or in this case, isn't doing anything, like literally no one is watching, well, somebody is watching. Not a lot. Not a lot. About 400,000. It sounds like a lot. It's not really a lot. But that doesn't mean that, quote, literally nobody's watching. That just means very few people are watching. So we'll get over that. Is it a big glaring error? No. But it's the incorrect version of that word, which often gets so mislabeled, defined entirely wrong. Now, I'm not here to defend Abby Phillip. I watched that show, not because it's a great show. They have the same mantra night after night after. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's very poor. Sometimes it's kind of squarely in the middle. Now, let me first say a few things, okay? Those of you who watch CNN, the few people that do watch CNN, look, they're trying. They are trying their very, very best. I like Abby Phillip quite a bit. I don't think she should be hosting a show like that. Not because she's not capable of doing such a thing. It's she doesn't have the right temperament. Okay, she's very, very talented. She's very smart. She has an opinion or two, which is ironically one of the reasons why I don't think she should be hosting that show. Although that's the least of her problems. If you watch Newsnight, it comes on at 7 o'clock here on the Pacific time zone. And it's, forgive me, I'm itching, which usually when I go on the air. 7 o'clock Pacific time, 10 o'clock East Coast time. And the thing that is wrong with Newsnight, and what this show is, in case those of you don't watch, it's basically an argue show, a debate show. And usually there's two or three people who are pro one side, and then there's two or three people who are pro the other side. Okay? It's a debate show. And it has to do with topics of the day. Usually involves Trump. It usually involves politics. It involves mundane stuff, germane stuff. Usually the debates are good and solid. Sometimes they get overboard, which I guess is precisely the point of having a show, but they get out of control. And that's where a good moderator takes control and goes on to the next topic. And I suppose, and I'm going to get back to the headline, the real motives are this. Megyn Kelly used to work for Fox. Okay. They had some kind of a brouhaha. She left Fox, went on her own vacation, which soon became a great degree of a leave of absence. She's been gone from Fox for what, 5 years now? And she got her own show and her own stream. I think you could get Megyn Kelly's show out there. And it's a show that deals with current events, current topics, that kind of a thing. Which goes into my next point. Look, Megyn Kelly could behoove CNN, could mock CNN. That's easy picking. And I'm not defending CNN. But she's going after Megyn Kelly. And I have a feeling, two things exist here. Megyn Kelly's trying to get a gig at CNN, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to hire her. She's got name recognition. She used to be at Fox. She could be put on as, I don't know, the token conservative host, which she is still. That kind of a thing. Have a panel show, have guests, and debate all they want. That's her motive, among many. She's mocking CNN, which can be mocked. That's easy picking, okay? CNN is just unable to do something. And whenever they have any kind of a show or an audience or any kind of thing in which case they get some degree of traction, they end up either firing somebody, they let somebody go. That's what happened with Chris Cuomo. He was beginning to develop an audience. And CNN had an inconvenient, in their case, situation take place. And that was Chris Cuomo's brother and all of his issues and brouhahas in the state of New York. As you know, Chris Cuomo's brother was Anthony Cuomo, okay, the former governor of New York who lost. He was running against this socialist guy. He's troubled. He doesn't have any peculiarly good numbers. He couldn't even beat this guy, the socialist, who ended up winning. He had a plurality of the vote. Of course, he's also the son of Mario Cuomo, the late governor of the state of New York. You know who the guy is, okay? So that transpired. My point is CNN is just their fire doesn't exist. They have no iota of trackage or of let's watch this. I watch Newsnight. I kind of enjoy it. But that doesn't mean I endorse it. Not that they need my endorsement. But they have on these guys and they're token conservatives and token liberals. It's decent. It's a little bit too long. And Abby Phillip is in the wrong character. She's quite competent. She used to write for the Washington Post. And she's got a liberal bent. Nothing wrong with that. But she doesn't know how to carry the program. And she often has on people like Chris Jennings, who is a Republican, their token Republican, used to be an advisor for some Republican administrations. I think he worked for Donald Trump in his first administration. And they have on various pundits, okay? And the show doesn't do well. Of course, they have it on at 10 o'clock at night, not exactly the primest of choice if you're trying to get a show some legs, so to speak. You wouldn't put it on there. You'd probably put it on at 5 o'clock our time, Pacific time, or 6 o'clock. Instead, they have the shockingly bad The Source with Caitlin Collins, who I guess They're trying to make it to a star. Caitlin Collins doesn't draw anything. She's, of course, the White House correspondent, and she does a show. Basically, it's a Washington show. Okay. Then at 5 o'clock on the Pacific time zone, 8 o'clock East Coast, is CNN Star. Problem is, it doesn't do well either. And that's, of course, AC, which stands for Anderson Cooper 360, doesn't get any kind of numbers. So, look, CNN has been trying for years and years and years and years to get some mojo, to get some audience, to get some degree of traction, something, and they just can't do it. How bad is CNN? They are being lumped together with a potential sale that Paramount is trying to purchase. Guess what? Paramount doesn't want CNN part of the deal. They don't want CNN, an entire network, because CNN, frankly, is just not a winner, doesn't do anything. Okay, that's down the road. So back to Megyn and back to Abby Phillip. I've said I enjoy watching Newsnight, which, as I've stated, Abby Phillip is the host. She doesn't know how to lead the program. Is she soft-spoken? Yes. Does she say anything of note? Well, not really. And I'm not saying you get up and start screaming and yelling, which, to her credit, Abby Phillip doesn't do. Abby Phillip is the moderator, but she's not good at taking something and running with it and developing a decent debate show that has not defined argumentative entities, something which could turn into a real debate show. There, I agree with Megyn Kelly. But Megyn Kelly clearly is trying to sniff out CNN, or someone for that matter. Hey, anybody, I'm available for the right price. I'm Megyn Kelly. Problem with Megyn Kelly is, well, she certainly has name recognition. Well, she certainly has the Fox credo. Apparently, she's difficult to work with, and for. And who knows what she wants in terms of salary, in terms of overall compensation package. Do you really want to get yourself in bed with somebody like that? Short term, no doubt it would win. She drives the needle, as they say. The problem is, what happens when you have your first, shall we say, disagreement? Not necessarily content. Could be any number of things which could take place, which could very likely take place. So Megyn Kelly clearly is trying to get out from under the independent world and maybe get to a CNN or a Newsmax, which is that new right-wing oriented network. They didn't hire her. They hired Bill O'Reilly, for God's sakes. So clearly they're trying to get new people. They're trying to create some kind of needle message themselves. Is it working just yet? CNN, I don't know what's going on. They can't do anything right. They, as the proverbial line would go, they couldn't drive a hooker to a strip show. It's just CNN. And they could try, as they have. They could put smart people on, interesting shows. I think Newsnight needs a stronger host. I think Newsnight would just as well put Abby Phillip on as an advocate for whatever. She's not a hostess. That's obvious. So these people have motives. They're trying to outdo one another. If I believe you offered Megyn Kelly a gig Monday and CNN made the numbers right, this is not going to happen. But if it did, if there was discussion from the CNN execs, this is probably more than likely why Megyn Kelly is going off on Abby Phillip. But there's a lot. There's a lot there. There's taking into account demographics. There's Abby Phillip herself. You can put two and two together and all that. The problem is the show does not attract significant numbers. Neither does the show preceding it or the show that is the last show before CNN goes with another show that's not getting any numbers, and that's the Laura Coates show and the new show based out of LA, which is the Alex Michelman show. That just is barely living. Cable, like every other cable business, is a tough row to hoe these days. But the brouhaha with Kelly and Phillip is something that you should know. The real reason why they're sniping at one another. To her credit, maybe I should say figuratively, Abby Phillip hasn't responded to Megyn Kelly. I'm sure there'll be some kind of a verbal sparring. Maybe not. Maybe she'll take the high road. Is Megyn Kelly correct? Yeah, on many fronts she is. But the manner in which she did, kind of a cheap shot. So now you know, to borrow a phrase from the late, great Paul Harvey. Remember he had that bit? So now you know. Well, folks, on this Saturday evening, so now you know. I'm Rich Lieberman. That is the Media Pulse for today and tonight. We will see you soon. Remember, subscribe to my channel right now. Be a liker. Tell everyone you know. Watch my show, and we will bid you a fond adieu.